Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Tonight I want to welcome Karen Holton. She is a contactee, experiencer, educator, guide, and ascension coach. She is the founder of Vancouver Island Alternative Lifestyle Services since 2007 and creator of the Quantum Health Transformation Program. Karen, welcome. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it because, most people have either never experienced the contact or abduction phenomenon or they don't remember it. But I personally, I don't believe I've ever had any contact experience, not that I can remember. I don't even remember any profound dreams that would be any kind of indicator that I've been through any experience like that. But I'm open to regression in the future just to find out because, some people say that many people are taken in their dreams and they don't even know it. That's why I enjoy having guests like yourself on to help us understand this phenomenon. So let's start at the beginning. Where did this all start for you? Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a bit about yourself as well.
Oh, okay, Chris. Basically, this is intergenerational for me. So as far as I know, it started with my grandmother. My grandmother grew up in an isolated area in eastern Canada in a small logging camp out in the middle of nowhere. There was hardly any roads. This would be the beginning of the 1900s. There wasn't a lot of cars. It was very low population. And she would go out to play in the woods, and she would come back and she would tell her parents that she met these really, really beautiful, kind people, and that they would come every day and meet with her, and they would teach her things. And of course, nobody believed her. They all just thought she was a little bit crazy. And my grandmother relied on them for all kinds of things. She became, later in life, she maintained contact. So she was what we may call clairaudient. She could communicate with them at any time within herself or within her own mind. She could do that. And she never had really any use for a lot of friends. She had a big family, a lot of children. She worked very hard. My grandmother had no running water, no sewage, and nothing like that. This was, a lot of people lived like that back in the day. And but she became a midwife and she became a healer because she was able to tap into these invisible friends, as she called them. And everybody just accepted that was part of what Grandma was all about.
Did she ever specify what types of beings were visiting her?
No, she didn't, because this kind of talk is highly stigmatized even today. And Grandma didn't care what other people thought. She was awesome that way. But at the same time, who would she share this information with? It threatens people's paradigms and it upsets them, and it's a good way to be a social outcast. So those things were very not talked about. But she talked a lot about it to my mom. And my mother, she thought it was craziness. She thought it was mental illness. But my mom had so many gifts. My mom was such a powerful psychic. And my mom had people come to her for healing. But my mom called it biokinesiology. So she used the muscle testing, and she was able to just actually use her own hand to do the muscle testing. And she was such a good healer. She had people come. They would be lined up out the door, and Mom never charged money for it, neither did Grandma. People wanted to bring gifts or something, that was okay. And so I think that our DNA got changed. So then I get born into this family, and I have all these experiences. And, sorry, Chris, you know how every terrible thing that happens to us in life sometimes ends up being the best thing that could happen because of what it sets us up for later on? So when I was a baby, I was only 3 months old, and I got polio and spinal meningitis at the same time. And the doctor actually came to the house and saw the condition I was in, put me in the car, took me straight to the hospital. And I was in an isolation room for 6 weeks. Now, when you're a little 3-month-old baby, that's a long time to be alone. And I can't explain it, but I believe that that was at the point where in order for me to survive, I had to go within and open up to universal consciousness, open up to whatever could be out there that would love me and give me the things I needed to survive as a baby. And I think that's where it started. And I had all kinds of really cool metaphysical experiences. Plus, I always had these invisible guides that I could talk to, but it was so stigmatized in my family. My parents were so freaked out about what the neighbors and everyone thought, and thought that it would hold them back if they had a crazy daughter. And so I was pretty much forced to not ever talk about it. And then later I got into religion. Of course, religion does not want this kind of information getting out because they're going to lose their stronghold on humanity. And so I was always told that it was, it was demons, and, I couldn't be a member of the church and all of that. And I ended up actually joining the Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was a Jehovah's Witness for 17 years, trying to stop these experiences and these dreams and these different things that I was having, because it was zero tolerance. Then when I left that, I left all religion at that point. I was done with all of it. Then I had a very profound angelic experience. I could use the whole hour just talking about this. I'll try not to say too much about that. That's another sort of realm that we could talk about maybe another time. But basically, they gave me a gift. They gave me a gift. They asked me what I wanted. I was in a very, very dark place. I was at a place where I was considering ending my own life. I had left the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're a very shunning organization. I had lost everybody, everything. I thought I'd lost my sanity. And I was actually going to off myself, and that's when this happened. And they said I could off myself if I wanted to. They said nobody has to stay if it's that unbearable. But
how did they come to you?
Through vision. And you see, this is the other thing, Chris. The overlap between ETs and angels and all of this is not clear. It's a whole soup, So what happened is, well, I'll just tell you basically, I'll try to keep this part short, but basically what happened is I was going to commit suicide, and the way I was going to commit suicide was very specific. I didn't realize until afterwards, a neighbor told me that she knew a woman whose son lived in that house before me, and he had offed himself in exactly the way that I was feeling like I wanted to off myself. Anyway, one night I was in bed, I was making my plan, and I just had an explosive vision, so explosive, and it was just light. And I heard not one voice, it was like 1,000 voices as one voice. And they asked me what I was doing, why I was doing it. They told me I had a choice. I could do that if I wanted to. But they said if I wanted to stay, I basically said to them, I feel ripped off because I had a lot of trauma in my life. I had a lot of bad things happen in my life. I really tried to be really good and go to church and all that stuff. And I felt like I'd been ripped off. I didn't really have a chance to experience life. And they said, well, if you want to stay, we'll give you a gift. You tell us what you want and we'll give it to you as a helper. And I went, I have no idea. Like, let me think about this. This is big. I mean, this has never happened to me in that way before. And I thought, wow, I don't know. So I said, can I let you know later? And they said, yeah, this is the thing. In the heavenly realms and in the higher frequency extraterrestrial realms and stuff, there's nothing but loving kindness, at least in my experience. There's nothing but loving kindness and mercy, great deal of mercy. I really believe the higher consciousness universe is very, rides on a love principle. Anyway, so I was out walking a couple of days later, and I've been thinking about, what do I want? I mean, who gets a gift from angels, right? And I thought, I know what I want. I thought, do I want money? because that would solve a lot of my issues. What do I want? I'm like, no, I want wisdom. Because if I have wisdom, I can have money. And if I have wisdom, I can make my life count. And if I have wisdom, I can do good things on the planet. So I said, I know what I want. I know what I want. I want wisdom. And they said, you've got it. No, I'm not the smartest or wisest person in the world, but immediately my reality shifted. I ended up in university. I ended up getting a degree. I ended up having so many things open up to me, not to mention specific training that is done just because I spend a lot of time. I love being in company of higher beings so much. I spend a lot of time being open to that. And because I've done the work of dealing with my own mental health and my own bullshit, my own experiences, and because I've done that, inside my head's fairly clear. And I meditate sometimes 2-3 times a day. Excuse me, Chris, sorry about that.
Oh, that's no worries. No worries at all.
And so I've got a lot of space to be in this, I can't even really explain it. I can create the sacred space where anything I want to know, I am told. Or what's interesting is I think it's even tied in with the internet, because I'll go onto YouTube and stuff will come into my feed, and many times your show will come into my feed, and it's exactly what I've been wondering about, or it's exactly what I've been thinking about. And then when I go, wait a minute, if I'm thinking about this, and if my guides are telling me this, and I'm saying this on Chris's show or somebody else's show, I'm going, that can't be a coincidence. And we can't all be crazy. How can we all have the same delusion? That would be more ridiculous, you know? And so more and more I've been believing this is actually real. And the more I believe it's real, the more experiences I have.
When was your first extraterrestrial contact where you actually communicated with these beings?
Okay, that was when I was about, my brother was about 17 and I was about almost 19 years old. And we started both, we lived in different places. We were both getting the same visions and dreams every night, where we were invited to go to a different world on a ship. They needed people like us for some reason. And I'm not saying we're spectacularly special or anything, but this was the plan. And I thought I was just dreaming, and my brother thought he was just dreaming. And then one day, about a week or two after, we talked to each other, and I said, Dan, I'm having these really weird dreams. He says, so am I. I says, did you get invited to go to another world? He says, yeah. I says, why didn't you tell me? He says, oh, I thought you would think I was crazy, right? So we were supposed to go on a specific night, and we were supposed to leave, and we both agreed that we would go. And something happened. I can't even explain it. But we were waiting. We weren't even together. We didn't have to be together. We were in our own places. And we both got these, just a huge vision not to go. Don't go. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. And that night we both had dreams that something went very, very wrong. And the beings that were in the particular craft that was supposed to come get us were destroyed. We don't know. We don't really know anything about it. And that was the end of that for a while, because then I got into religion and I just kept trying to shut it down all the time until...
Do you remember what those first beings looked like?
No, but I will tell you about Bob. And Bob, no, I don't. No, not at that point. Bob, I've gotten to know Bob for many, many, many years. And the reason I call him Bob is because I couldn't in a million years even imagine how to say what his name or handle or anything is. I'm going to tell you what he looks like. And this is a very different kind of being than the ones that I interact with on the Intergalactic Resettlement Program. So this is a completely separate situation. All I know about Bob, I'll tell you what he looks like. I don't know exactly how tall, because I've never seen him next to anything that I would recognize. I just know what he looks like. And it's very interesting because we seem to think that these beings are ever so serious, and some of them just aren't. Bob is infatuated with Earth culture, especially in my time. And he reached out to me, and we do we can meet in my mind. I mean, he doesn't speak in words, but I know exactly what he's telling me. And sometimes I write stuff down, and sometimes I incorporate it into my videos, but if I don't do it right, I have to go back and change it so that I have it the way he wants me to say it. But anyway, I'm thinking he's probably around between 5 and 6 feet tall. He looks a little bit like your stereotypical gray, except, and he's got very long fingers, very long limbs, but he wears clothes. They all wear clothes, and I call him the snappy dresser of the ET people, because he wears like black dress slacks. He's very slim. He wears black dress slacks. He wears a black turtleneck sweater. And when he wants to cheer me up or make me laugh, he wears a fedora, because he likes Michael Jackson and he likes Frank Sinatra, and he thinks they're the same. He can't really tell them apart. He just noticed something to do with the frequency of the music of both of them. He kind of gets them. Anyway, he's sort of, and it's like a pop culture amongst his kind. They're not all like that. In his group, he's the only one that's silly. The rest are more serious. But anyway, he tells me so much stuff, but he is higher up, and I've never physically seen him, but he is higher up than any of the beings in the intergalactic resettlement program. He's pretty high up, but I know he's an ET and he's not an angel. That I do know. Oh, and I want to tell you that his face, this is really cool. Okay, his face, a lot of the grays, they're shown with these really sort of flat or smooth faces. He has like fairly pronounced bonage around his, I would call it orbital bones, around his eyes. So his cheeks kind of come out, and he's got sort of prominent, where most of them don't have a lot of prominent facial features. And the other thing he revealed to me that I thought was really cool is they don't have big almond black eyes. Yes, they have big almond eyes, and they're out a little bit, but they're actually contact lenses that they wear. And the reason they wear them is because when they take their contact lenses off, their eyes are beautiful starbursts of color, and you can tell exactly how they're feeling, everything about them through their eyes, and that's considered very personal and very sacred. So it's just like some people cover their bodies, but when they're at home amongst their kids or the grandma, they might, wear ordinary clothes or something. Well, it's like that. Anyway, it's a spiritual thing, and they always keep them on. So some of the, so those big almond eyes, those are actually contact lenses that are covering. They're also super sensitive to light, and his skin is white, white, white. So I think they don't have much sunlight where he is. And he's part of a group, and they kind of sit in these lounge chairs, and they reach out. And they reach out to different beings in the universe, and they form friendship. So.
And you said most of these experiences occur while you're sleeping?
No, Bob is anytime, absolutely anytime. And the intergalactic work specific that I did was a 3-month period of time, Earth time. It was in 2015, and it happened at night while I was sleeping. And I thought that I was dreaming, but it was more than that, because I could remember way too much detail, and also my memories were much bigger than the allotted time that they were happening in. So I'll give you an example, and a lot of this I don't understand. I'm an experiencer. I'm not much of a researcher, and I'm certainly no scientist, so I don't have a lot of answers on how this stuff works. But what happened is I did about a 3-year journey, but I was only having the experiences for 3 months. So there's some kind of a time thing. And I was wondering if I can talk a little bit about ways that we end up going and being part of these projects, because that's kind of interesting too. Do you want to hear about that?
Definitely. First, let's hear about this experience from the beginning. When did this particular experience where you were working off planet, where did it begin and how did it begin?
Well, it started off with me being and I don't know how I got there. And I just was on this, I didn't even realize I was on a big ship. I was just in this huge big room, and there were chairs and there were some tables and there was a whole bunch of people there, and none of us knew why we were there or what we were going to be doing. And there was two exit doors, and they both had a really tall, kind of stern, stoic-looking guy standing there, but it was very non-threatening. And I started to realize that a lot of these beings looked very similar to me. but different. Something was different that said, whoa, whoa, you're not in Kansas anymore,
Now
Karen.
you could tell that you were on a ship?
No, not at that point. Not at that point. And what I didn't find out until later was that we were waiting to go in for orientation. And so I actually, because I get bored easy, I actually threw I don't know, it was a hoodie or something I had. I don't even know why I had that. I threw it down. Somebody else threw something down at the other end, and we actually started taking a piece of debris and kicking it back and forth. I says, hey, I'll show you guys how to play hockey. I was just kidding around trying to spend time. Like, it was, we didn't really know, but the feeling was there was no threat to us. Then when the time was right, the doors opened and we funneled out, we went in and we began the orientation
about how many
process.
people were there with you?
I'd say about 40, quite a few.
Nobody was scared. You didn't get a sense that anybody was concerned about anything?
No, not at all. More kind of like bewildered, like, where are we and who are you? And I noticed that we're kind of the same, but there's some kind of differences. And it was just kind of completely non-threatening. None of us were afraid, but you know, you kind of like are just looking around, taking it all in, right? And then, of course, we played the sort of silly game that really broke the tension, and everybody was very, very actually calm.
And you said that there were different types of beings amongst you?
Yeah. At that point, I'll give you an example. They're all a little bit different, just like humans are all a little bit different. And then depending on what region or culture we come from, we have differences. So there was difference, definitely. The biggest difference was in heights. So there was like from about 4 feet high up to about 10 feet high. I would say height was the biggest difference. Then there was, of course, amounts of hair or lack of hair. Skin tone varied, and some would vary off into the oranges or off a little bit into the blues. Some had very interesting pigment, and some of them, I didn't find out till later, actually have the ability to change their pigment. That was interesting too. So it would be like some people, I have freckles, well, some of them would have different patterns. Differences in body type. Some were more androgynous. Nobody was like all concerned about how they look, and there wasn't a big glamour factor or anything like that happening. And so that was basically it. We all had clothes on, and we just, I don't know.
Well,
Nothing hugely different. It's not until after orientation, we actually got on the ship and we were actually realized we were on a ship. Then I started noticing more.
Okay, so when you realized you were on a ship, did you see the ship? What did it look like?
Oh, now that happened down a while later, maybe into the second month, but that was really cool because I was on a smaller ship and we were approaching the larger ship. And it looked like nothing I'd ever seen before. And actually, I guess the ship we were on had some lighting that was reflected back, but the big ship actually looked like it was black. It didn't reflect, it reflected a bit of light, but it kind of just looked kind of glossy. And you wouldn't miss it very easily if you didn't know what to look for. But anyway, then it looked like a sphere, but kind of squashed down on the top and bottom. And then it had all these kind of spiraling arms that came out, similar to a galaxy. They came out around the midsection, and then each one of those, now just imagine it being a little bit like octopus legs. Instead of all the little suction cups was all the docking bays and things. And these ships are huge. Like, this wasn't even one of the really big ones, and it was probably 5 to 10 miles just across the sphere. They're huge. They're huge. One time when we were coming back from a big project we'd done, we were going back to the smaller ship. So I want to talk a little bit about how we travel and how you can do it in your sleep and still do it and all of that. But basically, we were headed back, and they have something that looks like an escalator, except it's straight vertical up and down. And there's these kind of like metal rods that come up and go down, similar to, you know, when you want to climb out of a swimming pool, like that. And you hold on to them, and then with your intention, the ships are very intuitive. They're partly run by AI that's actually biological. But anyway, they're very intuitive. So then you decide how fast you want to go down. And you go down in a standing position, but you're holding on, and then you go down, down, down. But it could be a long way down, like a kilometer down, that far down to the docking bay. So anyway, I'm on my way down. There's a woman looking down because she doesn't want to spook me by jumping on and coming down too fast, and I'm coming down. And all of a sudden, I just went, I just knew I was safe, and I just went, I want to go as fast, see how fast this thing can go. And I just started whipping down. And I was squealing because it's like being on a roller coaster ride, right? I was just squealing, squealing, squealing. The lady behind me, she jumped on, but she jumped down head first. So I was going, feet down, head up, down, and she was coming down, head down, and feet up, and she came chasing after me, but we were playing. It was like a game. It was so much fun. I got to the bottom, and there was no impact. There was just kind of like a little poof, and then you step off. It was really cool. It was really
Very
cool.
interesting. Now, going back to the orientation, what did they tell you that first time?
Oh, it's really cool. What they do, basically, you walk through a scanning device. It scans everything about you, your energies. It scans what you look like, everything inside of you, everything. Once you pass through there, you're assigned a buddy. And they assign you a buddy that's as close to us culturally and how they look, or it might even be somebody who's more advanced in the program who is from Earth. Someone very, very close is your buddy. So you're never alone, you never have to be scared, and you've always got someone who can answer your millions of questions as they come up. And so that happens right away. And your buddy actually will sleep in the same room with you, in the same bed if that's what you need to feel safe, because it can be a little unsettling in the beginning, the first few times, right? And your buddy is really, really great. And then you get into actual classes of orientation. Everyone gets a tablet, but they're just like thin resin sheets. There's no dials or buttons or ports or anything like that. But you can access anything from the main computer or from the tablet. So anyway, you start right away, you get into education and you start learning about the possibilities. If there's any training that you need before you get there, that gets done. And training can be done one of two ways. It can either be done through the tablet, or you can go in and they have a type of virtual reality, but it doesn't have glasses. It's just a little band that goes around your head. And you start getting educated because everybody gets a job. It's fun. I mean, it's not like you're just sitting around waiting to get there like you're on the bus. Everybody participates. Everybody gets involved right away.
Now, what is it that you were involved in? What were they teaching you? What exactly were you doing?
Well, when we were on our way, I was involved in sort of a pre-settlement program where what we were doing was assessing planets that had everything except humanoids on it. So it had water, atmosphere, it had bugs, they have animals, they have flying creatures, they have everything there, but they don't have humanoids on it. And so what we did was we participated in, and it's a very hands-on program, but we participated in doing research on these different planets. So before we got to the planet, a couple things has to happen. First thing is there's some healing chambers that we need to spend some time in, because every planet has a little bit different atmosphere, a little bit different gravity, a little bit different, there's all kinds of differences. There might be minerals that we don't have on Earth. All those things affect us. And this is a pretty harm reduction program, I'll tell you. Nobody gets hurt in this program. And each group takes turns deciding what kind of habitat we're going to have when we go there. Sometimes we were in tents, sometimes we were in little cabins, sometimes we were in little lean-tos. It depended on what that group decided to set up. But it was very hands-on because the resettlement program is for people who want to go and start resettling these other planets. So even though they have the technology to do the scanning and to do a lot of that automatically, they want us down there. They want us having the physical experience of being down there and helping with the research and collecting data. And we're under quarantine, so we have very limited exposure to the animals. Because at this point, see, everything we do has an effect on everything else. So these ecosystems are in perfect balance. They're in health, everything. And you know, humans and some beings, we're pretty good at screwing things up. And so we got to be very careful of our imprint.
So
You know,
you
that we
actually
leave there.
traveled to these different planets, these different
Yeah,
locations.
yeah,
Could you describe some of these locations? And you said animals, possibly
yeah.
some of the wildlife as well?
Well, I didn't see, I really didn't see, but at least as far as I remember at this point, because I haven't had any regression therapy yet, I'm really looking forward to getting into this more. But to this point, I don't remember a lot of seeing a lot of animals. But the animals I did see, they're very similar to what we see on Earth, but then again, different again, right? You know, when you go to Australia, they're really different animals, kind of marsupials and stuff that you don't see anywhere else. It would be like going to another continent that has another whole genre, but it's still, we never felt threatened or scared or anything. And we basically worked on our tablets and gathered data. And it was the part that I participated in was mostly plants and stuff. But I had one weird animal experience that I can't explain. I don't remember the details about it. But I was walking through the woods, and the trees in this around this campsite, they were very tall and very dark and very narrow, and with very little foliage, but just on the very, very top. And all of a sudden something flew past me, and I looked, and I thought it was a giant butterfly. It was so beautiful with these huge iridescent wings, and it flipped past me, and I didn't really get a good look. And then after a little while, I heard something from a tree calling out, and I looked up, and here was this little animal. It looked like a cross between a monkey and a cat, and it had these beautiful butterfly-like wings, and it was in distress. And I didn't really know why, but I just said, come on down, as if it was someone's pet or something. The other reason why they don't want us having a lot to do with the animals is because the animals don't have a fear. They don't know, they've never seen us before, right? So, you know, anyway, but it flew down, and it came into my arms. It was so glad. It was like so relieved. I just held it to my chest. I went back. We were staying in little cabins at that point, and I just put it on my cot, and I just left it. And it went to sleep, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And that's all I remember. I don't remember how it got there or where it came from, or if it was someone's pet, or I don't know.
Now, how long did you say that you were involved with this program?
About 3 months Earth time, but the program I was on was more like 3 years. So I would wake up in the morning just exhausted, because I had been, in a month, I had done a year. And I can't explain how that's even possible, but that's how it was. And sorry, I forgot your question, Chris.
Oh, I had just asked how long it had been going on.
Yeah.
And throughout the process, I guess these beings were, telling you what to do, teaching you and helping you along the process?
Well, yeah, but a lot of that training happens on the ship. Like, we weren't given huge jobs that would require university education, but we did get into education right away. And like I said, it was very simple. And, they didn't have holographic representations of the planets or anything like that, but they did have, like I said, a little band goes around your head. You just lie in a very comfortable sort of reclined seating, and you're there. So you get to walk around on the planet, everything as though you're there, but before you actually go. And then, of course, there's really boring classroom stuff, of just what to expect. What are the specs of the planet? Then there's the healing chamber work to make sure that you're going to be comfortable once you go there. And at first I thought that I was doing it in my sleep. And I thought, how is that possible? Well, bilocation is a thing, and it does make sense. But I don't think this was bilocation, Chris, because I remember eating, and I remember going in the baths. And if I didn't have physicality, I wouldn't be able to do those things.
That's my next question. This is the part that it's really tough for me to understand, is are you physically there, or is this just your astral being? I'm not sure how this works, because it's different. I hear different things from different contactees. So what was it for you?
Well, it was a combination of a whole bunch of things. So I want to start with physicality. So there's basically 3 ways that I can, there's actually 4 ways that I can actually physically go to the transport. One way would be for it to come down and pick me up. That doesn't happen a lot anymore because it's the politics on this planet are nuts, and that just doesn't happen that much anymore. So the other thing that you can do, how you can get there physically, is they have transport orbs, and I have no idea how they work, but they're just spheres, little spheres that come down, and when you're ready, they somehow are able to capture you and take you there. And I can't explain how that is, and you get there very fast, and you step out and you're there. Third way of going is you can do a body double. So for instance, there might be somebody who wants to come to Earth and spend some time here, and I want to go there and do the project. They literally can switch us into each other's bodies. And
transfer of consciousness is what you're talking about?
Yeah, transfer of consciousness, absolutely. And then there's another way of going where, and it involves sort of 3 stages of cloning, really. The first stage of cloning is they have kind of like an all-purpose biological physicality that we can, and that our consciousness can get transferred into. And everybody's psychic, plus your own personality comes through in that, but besides that, they pretty much all look the same. Then you can also have an actual clone of yourself that they keep in storage, and you can go and you are just yourself. So you're going from yourself to yourself. And I know it's very weird. And then the third thing is you can actually, once you're used to it all and you know what you're doing, you can actually design your own body. And it's hilarious because you know how you can do that on some video games. You can do that with your biological body when you go there, and that's kind of fun. But that's a very advanced. Most people never get to that.
Now, have you experienced all of those forms of travel, I guess?
Yeah, actually I have. And one time, this is really weird. Okay, one time I went on a project and I did the consciousness swap with the other being. And while they were here, they just stayed in bed and watched Netflix and YouTube. And I was off doing my project. When I come back, people said, "What happened to you? You didn't answer the phone. You didn't come to the door. What's going on?" I says, "Oh, I was depressed." I didn't know what to tell them. I said, "I was depressed." I mean, oh, that makes sense. I mean, what can you say to people?
Now, you also said that you were picked up by a physical craft before, and they don't do that often anymore.
No, I was never actually picked up by a physical craft. I have at least, I believe at least once I've done the transport sphere. And then of course, then I've also done bilocation. So the bilocation is mostly for when I have to do meetings and stuff and training. And so I'm a representative and an ambassador. So what happens is I keep going, sticking up for Earth. I keep going, no, humans are, there's a lot of good humans and a lot of us get it. And a lot of us really, you know, we want, should the, I don't know if you can say this, excrement hits the oscillating vacillator, whatever it's called, you know what I mean, the shift, whatever, hits the fan, you know, then we are going to have an opportunity to go to other worlds. But only those of us who want to take our lives seriously and care for our bodies and care for our minds and be open-minded and tap into the love, the whole love frequency and the good people. You know, there's no point in moving a bunch of sick and twisted human beings onto other planets and take them up to the ship. That will never happen. But people that, they don't have to be perfect, but people that seriously have a desire, you know, we have an inborn desire to go to the stars, to go to other planets. Look at all the fiction and nonfiction that's been written about it. We're starving for it. It's something we're longing for. So if things get so bad here that, you know, it's extinction, so many of us, not just me, many of us, possibly millions of us, will have a chance to go if we want to, but nobody has to. It depends. Sorry, I get off on 10.
Oh, no worries at all. Okay. Did they tell you what planets exactly that they were taking you to?
Nope, that's the really weird part. I have no idea what the races are of the beings. I have no idea what the planets are. I have no idea on any of that. And the reason I was told, the reason for that is because it's much easier just for me to tap into universal consciousness, be of service to whatever group or being that basically has a job for me or has information that I'm supposed to put out there. Very clear, though, the message is those of us who've had experiences, it's time to come out of the closet. It's time to start telling our stories. It's time to start sharing. And then everyone else who's had similar will realize they're not alone. Will realize that there's other realities and other realms. And so it's really important for us to come out and start telling people.
Now, you were physically on these planets, is that correct?
Yeah, and I know I was physically because one of them, after we had done our work for the day, there was some beautiful, naturally forming out of the rock. There were these basins, and they were full of this really beautiful mineral-rich hot water, like a spa, like a natural spring, and they were beautiful. And that was where, I didn't always know that I was on other planets, but at that point I really knew, because we were just relaxing and the water was bubbling up. It was so beautiful. And we looked up, and there was two really beautiful moons. One was closer than the other, and it was so incredibly beautiful. We were tired, and we were in good company, and we were doing good work, and just the beauty of what we would see was spectacular.
Now, I guess you could breathe the air. The atmosphere was breathable.
Absolutely.
What were these surroundings like? Did it look similar to Earth?
Very similar. Very similar. In fact, a lot of people are going to be kind of disappointed when they find out that this region of space is, we're kind of all related. So we're all, and I've been told we're the same species. We're just different races within the same species. The human race is one race, regardless what people talk about being different races. No, we're one race. We're the human race. But of the same species, there are other races, right? So.
Now, are you aware of any malevolent ET races that are involved with anything here on Earth, or have you been given any messages about any malevolent ET races?
Yeah, there are some, and there are some that aren't even malevolent, but are not really helping. Like, for instance, there's a big I don't know the technical name for it, but there's an interplanetary federation, and they've been meeting for years and years and years with our leaders. And you know what? Regardless of what's going on behind closed doors, Chris, humanity is not benefiting. The planet is not benefiting. And so there are other groups that are tired of this. They're breakaway. They basically have gone rogue, and they've done their own, they got their own program. And they're actually the ones that are doing this resettlement program. And like I said, I don't have a fancy name. It wouldn't be real anyway, because we don't talk when we're on the ships. We use telepathy, and we use just gestures, and we don't talk, because there's a lot. I actually made a couple of videos about why they don't talk, and there's good reasons for it. Even some of them, we come across kind of predatory and kind of aggressive with our mouths and our teeth and everything. And some of them have been using nothing but telepathy for so long and they're really tidy around their mouth. And so, they have cultures. They have cultures just like we have cultures. And, and some of them are not even that far ahead of us. They're just other beings on other planets that have the desire and are suitable for this kind of contact work.
Any indication if these are some of the same beings that have been interacting with us throughout history, such as like beings like the Anunnaki? Are they similar, do they know of the Anunnaki? Anything like that?
I hate to tell you this, but almost all the stuff that we find out about, you know, on different YouTube shows and stuff, Zachariah Stitch and all of that, my experiences are quite different. I wouldn't know an Anunnaki, to be honest with you, if he was standing in front of me. But there is a fella named Derek White Sky Cloud or something like that, and he says they're Anunnaki, and his experiences they're very human-like as well. So I don't know if it's a similar group or a completely different group, but I do know that I don't discount anybody else's experience, because there's great diversity on the planet. There's even greater diversity once we start getting into you know, the galaxy. I mean, most people can't even get their heads around how big and how complex our galaxy is.
Do you think that one day in our lifetime that we will have open communication with these beings again? They will make themselves known. It'll be a normal thing that extraterrestrials are here. They've always been here, and hey, we can communicate with them.
Oh yes, and it's going to happen sooner than we think. And it's funny. Some of these groups actually do have a sense of humor, and they even have one huge rescue ship that's coming, and they've called it Enterprise after the Star Trek Enterprise, so that we feel more comfortable and we feel safer going there. So, you know, I know there's bad stuff happening with, according to what I've been told, the really bad stuff where people are abducted and terrorized and tortured and hurt and all of that, most of that is coming out of your MK Ultra, coming out of your governments that are trying to push us past our limits to see what makes us tick. Whatever their sick stuff is, the most, I got to tell you, Chris, if you take a look at what's going on in this world today, we don't need evil ETs to come. Look at how horrible we are within humanity. Look at how horrible we are to each other. Look at how horrible we are to the life on this planet. People don't even know how to love themselves anymore. They don't know how to take care of themselves anymore. Why would we need some idea? And again, I think that is brainwashing and propaganda, because if they create a worse evil out there off planet, then it somehow takes our mind off the evil that's going on this planet. And the only way we're going to change this planet, in my opinion, is to change ourselves. It has to be going inside, working on ourselves, taking care of our temple body, being open to new experiences, and to get on that love train. Because, and it's not just a word, love is an action thing. It's something that needs to be, you know, everything from kindness to mercy. How much mercy do we see in this world? Sorry, I didn't mean to get off on a rant, but I'm just, this is my take on it. And that the beings that we're going to see and have contact with, I think it depends also on your own psychology, how you're going to view them, right? So I don't know. I haven't experienced any bad. I've had no bad experiences and no fear. I have had nothing but the most beautiful support. And I keep going to these meetings, and I know, and I do by location generally when I'm at the meetings. And I know, because I might wake up in the middle of the night and have to go to the bathroom, and I'm in the middle of a meeting. And it's like almost embarrassing, because you kind of have to come back into your body, go back, but they're also used to us. And I'm constantly sticking up for humanity and saying, there's so many good people. There's so many really beautiful people. Just, there's a lot of rotters too, but, you know, and yes, we're ready for this. We're ready for resettlement. Actually, what would be even better is for us to take our own power, because there's so many of us, Chris, take our own power and say, no, we're not dealing with this bullshit on this planet anymore. We're not going to work today. We're not going to buy anything today. We're not going to support your system today. And we're all going to stay home and whatever. And, you know, until we get to that point, and everybody out there, I think, is hoping we'll get to that point. You know,
Definitely.
there are so many technologies and ways that we can fix stuff and stop screwing it up in the first place. And our planet heals. Cut us, we heal. cut the planet, it heals. Just leave it alone so it can heal. And then, sorry about the rant, but...
Oh, no, no worries at all.
It is a political issue, Chris. It's a very political issue.
Yeah.
And we can't take our bullshit onto other worlds. That's never going to happen. We're actually in quarantine.
Now, you say we're in quarantine. Do you think that we're not allowed to leave this planet right now? What about, the stories of our secret space program? What about the,
Oh, I think
have operations on Moon and the Mars and things like that?
Good question. I actually believe the secret space program is real, but I think it's probably quarantined in itself. You know how we tend to think, we get hubris and we think we're the top of the food chain? We're so not at the top of the food chain, and it's going to be really shocking to people when they find out we're not at the top of the food chain. I don't mean that in a predator way. I just mean that we're not the smartest knife in the drawer or the sharpest knife in the drawer. We just think we are, right? And so, a lot of things are allowed to continue for a reason. And just like there can be some groups on Earth that are doing stuff in secret, there can be groups in space, but actually there is really no secrets, because there is the higher version of us and the higher version of these beings. And in those dimensional realities, you can see everything going on below. We can't see up. You know what I mean? It's hard for us to see up and perceive up. But okay, so you mentioned the secret space. Oh, I know Mars and you know what, Chris? You want to know what I really think? I really think that everything we're told is bullshit. I really, really do. It's all bullshit, the Mars and the moon. Now, I do think, though, and I have been told, that the moon is a piece of technology. That is not a moon. It's not a little planet. It's a piece of technology. And yes, there's beings there. And yes, there's stuff going on there. But no, we're not allowed. We're not allowed off this planet much. It's all bullshit. Unless they're using like CERN and they're going interdimensional or something like that. But no, because come on, wouldn't you quarantine us?
I definitely would. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I understand through your experiences, you gained some information that you use for your work now.
Yes.
Could you tell us about that, how you came upon the information and what kind of work you're doing?
Yes. Okay. So the first thing they did was they gave me the information that I needed to heal myself, because I had spent my life very self-destructive and did not care for my body. And also I had a lot of medical intervention and a lot of bad surgery and a lot of stuff happened to me. And I ended up with brain injury and all kinds of stuff. Meanwhile, I've got this amazing, fantastic program that was given to me. It was given to me in a download. So when I get downloads, they happen in an instant, but it takes weeks and even months for it to unfold into my greater understanding, because it comes from a very high level of intelligence, and I'm just not that smart, so I have to unpack it. But it came to me in a moment, and I just scribbled it down on paper, and it's called Quantum Health Transformation. And when I first started doing it, they're really terrible videos. I'm in the process of redoing them. The information is fantastic. But the videos, I was just starting out, never done videos before, had trouble with my short-term memory, but I just kept persisting. And they cover every aspect of human life that we need to raise our frequency and to become healthier, happier people. So it involves everything from how to see the world in a more complex way, that's step 9, the Nubby Ball, how to detoxify our bodies, how to do earthing and grounding. And this is all back from 2013, which was a little ahead of its time. How to use the uses of organite. That's how I ended up getting into creating my own line of organite. How to make it properly. How to go back and corrupt your memories for being able to deal with past traumas. How to affect the quantum field, very much law of attraction type stuff. And how to evolve as a spiritual being by, and this is really cool. Okay, so you know there's certain virtues like love and joy and peace and patience and mercy, and these are virtues. When we actually focus on one of them, say patience. That was a really hard one for me. I'm still working on that one. And I go out into the world and I endeavor to be more patient. I'm developing myself as a person. I'm having an effect on the quantum field because everybody I affect is getting a gentler Karen who's more patient with them. But what I didn't know until later is it actually opens a portal to another realm where your life will change in magical ways that you wouldn't even have thought has anything to do with patience. So anyway, all of that is in there. And it's absolutely free. It's on my website and it's on YouTube. It's called Quantum Health Transformation. And I created it in 2013. I'm in the process of doing the 2.0 version. I'm really excited because I'm learning how to use video editing software now because my brain's healed enough because I follow my own advice. Oh yeah, the other thing, side effect, I lost 178 pounds when I created the program, and I have never had a weight problem since. I'm a little bit chubby, but I don't really have a weight problem, and that's since actually even before 2013 that started. But I was able to, you know what they talk about epigenetics, where you can change your DNA. So I don't have a weight problem. I eat 10 times more food than I ever ate when I was dieting and trying to lose weight. I was 320 pounds right up till I was 50 years old. And I'm 64 now, and I have, I can do more and function better than I could when I was 35. So I'm kind of in the club with Augie Nost and Hummingbird Jewel now, you know, where we're going, this is really exciting, you know, we can actually reverse some of our aging.
It's really awesome. So tell everyone before you head out where they can find your work, and any other messages that you have for us. I know right now it seems that there is a mass awakening going on.
Yeah.
People are becoming aware of the hidden world, everything going on behind the scenes. And I think a lot of people, you know, that are just waking up are confused and they're not sure where to turn. They're not sure how to heal themselves and what to do. So give them a little advice before you head out.
Okay, the first thing I want to say is I created a show which I'm in the next few weeks I'll be doing episodes 4 and 5. So I will have done 5 episodes, and it's called the Quantum Guides Show, and it's on my YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel is Karen Holton. I didn't have the imagination to make anything else better than that up. And it's on there, and it is specifically designed for the newly awakened. So I'm having people who are awake and are doing amazing things in their life with their process to give other people ideas. Don't run out and do what we do, but this will stimulate your imagination to go out and create, because you're a great creative being and you have huge potential and your life can be so magical and wonderful. And then there's my website, www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, KarenHolton, healthcoach.com, which is my website. I have a free resources tab, and I have tons of videos and podcasts and articles that I've had published, and the complete quantum health transformation program, and I'll be adding the 2.0. So I didn't want anybody to not, you know, like, because when I was sick, I didn't have $500 to hire this person and to hire that person to buy $1,000 worth of supplements. So one of the things super important was to create a program and make it absolutely free with no strings attached. And then if people want to support my work, I have my own brand of Organite called Zen Domes Organite. Now, Etsy and some other companies have stolen my name, and I'm not going to do much about it because I don't want to and whatever. But please make sure that you're getting it from my website. Anything else is an imitation. I've got tons of videos. I've got a playlist of my videos I've made explaining why my Organite's different. And again, it's because I have this amazing information and these amazing abilities that have been given to me. And so I guess I got some wisdom after all, and I'm kind of really digging it.
Awesome, definitely. And that was fantastic information. We'll have you on in the future.
I'd love to be on again.
All right. Well, you have an excellent night.
Yeah, you too, Chris. Wish you the best always. Thank you so much.